Hi, my name is Bill Sengstacken, and this is an Inbound B2B Marketing Minute. Last time we talked a little bit about brands in the sense of a lot of people think a brand is a logo. Well, it's not. If you still believe your brand is your logo, please watch the last video and then come back to this one. For those of you who do understand that, yeah, my logo is not my brand and my brand is not my logo, you probably are wondering where the brand lives if it's not there on paper or it's not there on the website and it's not there hanging over your door. The brand actually lives between your customers' ears. It's in here. That's where you're trying to affect change. That's where you're trying to get them to understand what you're all about. I recommend highly that you talk to people to figure out what your brand is, internally and externally. If you're a startup, obviously talk to your co-founders, talk to, if you have any employees, talk to the employees, talk to your investors and ask them what their perception is on what your product does, what it's all about, where its value proposition is, and all like that. These have to be open-ended questions. You don't want to lead the witness, so ask a series of questions about, if you had to describe our brand in 10 words, what would you say? Stuff like that. Externally, if you're a startup, you're probably going to have to do something called customer discovery. Customer discovery requires that you figure out who your target market is and then try, and this is hard, try to get people in that space to spend 45 minutes to an hour with you to interview them. And again, open-ended questions are your friends. And you do not want to drive somebody to a conclusion that you want them to find. You need to let them guide you because the customer is going to be the person you're affecting in the future. It's not going to be about you. Combine the information you get from the customer as well as the information you get from your coworkers and your founders and your employees, and you should be able to start honing in on what your brand is. For example, I was at JBoss, and at JBoss we were an open source company, open source middleware. This is well before we got acquired by Red Hat. At the time, open source software was seen as wild and woolly. Nobody really trusted it. It was a bunch of guys working out of garage. It wasn't professional, blah, 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 blah. So we did a lot of these interviews. We questioned people. We queried them. And the feedback we were getting was, I love your software, but I just can't put it into production because I need to make sure there's support there. Professional support is critical for me. Within our own company, our executives were saying, we're a professional services company, but nobody knows that. So what did our brand become? Shockingly enough, we became JBoss, the professional open source company, and we hammered that message home again and again and again. Everything that we did was all about professional open source. But once you understand what your customers are asking for, where their pain points are, and also what your team is saying, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what your brand is, at least for launch. You may have to come back and revisit, which is when you're going to talk about buyer personas. And we will talk about buyer personas next. This has been an Inbound B2B Marketing Minute. If you like what you saw, please share it. Hit subscribe if you like it even more. And if you really want to get into some stuff and have a discussion, come to our website, inboundb2bmarketing.com. Read our blogs and discuss and share your thoughts there. We love to have a good conversation. And of course, you can always comment right down there. Thanks for your attention, and we'll see you next time.